wobbly from that hit to the head. The latest, and did the Lakers Golden State series just turn on its head? Also, this slash, these survival games, and KC versus Detroit to open the season. Let's go! Are the Lions ready for prime time? Kneecaps alert. I think they are.
Very good job.
I think this could be off the rails.
Welcome to the main stage.
Warriors 121, Lakers 106. The latest on Anthony Davis' head injury. The reporting from Chris Haynes last night was detailed. He was helped on the bench, and then it was serious enough they decided to take him to the nearest room. Davis was so wobbly there he needed a wheelchair before heading to the locker room, but reportedly, allegedly, was not ruled to have a concussion. Walked out with the team after the game, flew on the team flight, and the Lakers go forward from there. On the other side, the adjustments Golden State made in the need to have it, got to have it win that they did get at home. Clinton Yates, around the horn to you. Did the Warriors merely survive, or did they make changes that can help them win the series?
I don't think they did anything that specific. They just played like they knew it mattered. The sense of urgency was obvious coming out, and they got a monster game from one guy who's been there for a long time as part of that championship set, Draymond Green. I mean, he scores 20 points and 10 rebounds. He gets a double-double. He doesn't shoot too many shots. He makes all his free throws. He doesn't foul too much. That's the kind of monster setup you need from him in order to be able to come back against the Lakers. Ultimately, like I said yesterday, I think this is still Lakers in 7, but the adjustments weren't that big. They just played better basketball with the guys that we know can do it.
Pablo Torre, bring you in here.
No, I think this felt like Christmas for the Warriors, Tony, even outside of the fact that suddenly they may not have to face AD. We're still waiting on that, of course. But I say that more literally because before this postseason, the last time Draymond Green scored 20 points was Christmas Day in 2019. It's literally Christmas again. He's done it twice this postseason. They are 43-10 when he scores 20. And so Draymond Green being a guy who can slow Anthony Davis, who can actually score in big moments when they need him to, plus Andrew Wiggins, by the way, attacking the paint, finally shooting over 50% from the paint. The Warriors have been terrible down there. These are the changes that are talent-driven, but I think they're sustainable.
Kevin Blackistone.
Well, I mean, I don't think that they did anything differently either. I would point out that Draymond Green scored in double figures for only the second time in this series, and both times those have resulted in W's. So I think that's pretty good. He picked up the slack in scoring that some other guys weren't providing, most notably Thompson. So I think that's what the difference was. But then you look on the Lakers side, right? They didn't have any heroes off the bench last night. Rui was just Rui. Lonnie was just Lonnie. He wasn't the other big L. They lose AD, as you pointed out. They just didn't have the offensive power to stay with those runs that the Golden State Warriors put up last night. So I don't think anything really has changed in this series. If AD plays, I think he's going to be the difference maker. You look at the difference that he makes on the floor for the Lakers in terms of plus minus, it's off the charts. So that's the difference in this game.
And Cordy Cronin.
Gary Payton II being in the starting lineup for a second straight game allows this team to play faster. The smaller lineup certainly worked in Game 5. And to everybody else's point, Curry finally got some help. Now, that help hasn't really come in the form of Klay Thompson throughout this series. And we know Jordan Poole at least starting to look like he's rebounding back into the form of Game 1 Jordan Poole. But in order for the Warriors to survive in this series another day, let's see some Game 6 Klay come to life in Game 6 down in Los Angeles on Friday. Higher points per game, three-point percentage, true shooting percentage, team winning percentage in all of his career Game 6s. We remember the three-point explosion he had in 2016 in Oklahoma City. That's what the Warriors are going to need in order to survive in this series and force it to a Game 7.
No TV doctoring here. There's nothing worse we people do than the TV doctor. But again, the report is no concussion for Anthony Davis. How concerned should the Lakers be that there is a little disruption here, Clinton Yates?
I'd be reasonably well concerned because, to me, this is more than just an injury thing. This is somewhat of a confidence thing, too, as well. There's been so many different things that have ailed AD throughout his career that I wonder just sort of what kind of a player he is in terms of what he brings to the court every night. Because a guy with such ability, a guy with such length and ability to change the game, if he feels off, maybe the rest of the team doesn't feel the same way as well. That would be my largest concern. And I don't think they're going to put a guy out there who can't play.
Pablo Torre?
No, look, there are NFL incentives now, Tony, about whether this is a concussion or not, because, of course, he'd have to sit for 24 hours if it is. But Courtney mentioned, why did they go to Gary Payton II? It's because they've been trying to solve for Anthony Davis. He has changed the starting lineup of the Warriors 3 times. He's been the centerpiece. They run everything through. It's enormous. The series is over if he's not available.
Knicks 112, Heat 103. Let's go there. For New York to win Game 5 with Jalen Brunson and Quentin Grimes playing every second of every minute of the 48. And Grimes getting banged up and then making a steal on the same possession in the last 2 minutes of the game on the line. Awesome. Problem. Is that sustainable, though, for the Knicks, or just one back against the wall home win?
Tony, this is like when you pull an all-nighter and you somehow get an A, and now you have to try and do it again. Quentin Grimes and, of course, Jalen Brunson, man, it's incredible what they're doing. We don't see it. We shouldn't expect it. But Quentin Grimes especially, finally, Knicks fans have been calling for this. Put him in the starting lineup. Thibodeau does it. He has defended Jimmy Butler on 96 possessions in this series. On those possessions, Jimmy Butler is shooting under 30%. He has been incredible and underrated, and now he's going to be exhausted. And we just don't see this happen. Jimmy Butler was the last guy to do it. Play all 48 multiple times in a series back in 2013. They're going to try with Tibbs, but I don't think it's sustainable, no.
Love the analogy about pulling the all-nighter and then getting your professor to give you an A. For Kevin Blackistone, Professor Blackistone. Hey, what's that? You don't give A's here, so I don't know if you follow that. But
of course not. You know, I don't like grading. It just gets in the way of learning. But let's get beyond that. Yeah. What I want to point to right here is the fact that all we talk about now in the NBA is minutes, right? Minutes played. How many minutes guys are going to play? They didn't talk about that back in the day. Not back in 1972 when Walt Frazier and Jerry Lucas played every minute of every minute in the playoffs for the Knicks, which is what you got with Brunson and Grimes. And that's why Brunson is there, to get this team to the next level in the playoffs. So I would not be concerned right now with Jalen Brunson's minutes or Grimes' minutes. This is what they need to win. It worked for them. They'll do it again.
Gordy Cronin?
I'm not concerned about the minutes for those two guys, but I am concerned that you'll get more of the Julius Randle we saw when he went 1 for 7 early in the game before he then hit that step back 3 and then didn't miss a shot. He's been inconsistent throughout this series. It's probably more of what you're going to get when this thing goes back down to Miami. And this was the first meh game that we got from Jimmy Butler in the postseason. I also don't think that Kyle Lowry, Gabe Vincent, and Kevin Love are going to go a combined 2 of 18 from 3 in the next game.
And Clint Yates.
As much as that play from Grimes was so great to watch in kind of a microcosm of the season, if you've got to get 48 minutes from Quentin Grimes in order to win a playoff game, that is not sustainable by any stretch of the imagination. Overall, I do think, though, that's, kind of what this Knicks season has been about. You lose that game fighting hard on home turf. The Bing Bong community has to be happy with how this is ended, considering how they think that the season has started.
One more story here. All NBA teams. I always ask about snubs. You want somebody on, you got to throw somebody up. You want to move somebody up, you got to throw them out of the. But also, what are we still doing having positions? The change to positionless will come in 2 years. But here's the example: SGA and Luka Doncic over Nikola Jokic. Also, All NBA as a contract level up for players. Jaylen Brown is at the top of that list now that he's All NBA. He can get a whole lot more money. Courtney, did All NBA get it right this year?
When it comes to Jaylen Brown, they did. Him earning the second team nod. He was 9th in scoring this season. That's deserved. And it's good for the core of the Celtics this summer when we think about the contract implications here. The Celtics are the only team, Tony, that are allowed now to offer him that 5-year, $295 million Supermax contract. So that's good for Jaylen Brown. Might he want to test out free agency? Potentially. We know that he hasn't necessarily said that Boston's his long-term place. He wants to be a place where he is respected and treated fairly. Maybe that's somewhere else, but it's going to be hard for any other team to match that $295 that the Celtics can now offer.
Maybe I see you shaking your head when the figures came out there.
Yeah, I mean, this is an uncomfortable deal, this all-NBA team, given the fact that it is the media that decides the team, which is fine, but as you pointed out, this has an implication to guys' contracts. We should not be involved in the business of making news. We should be involved in the business of covering news. And I wish that they could somehow change this so that we're not a part of this. You're not going to have positions in the next all-NBA team. Don't have an agreement where this is going to impact somebody's contract. Look what happened to Ja Morant. and how much money he just lost. Maybe rightfully so. Maybe that's the punishment that he deserves for his.
All right.
His
So
antics.
for you, it's a total non-starter that the media is voting on All
Absolutely.
NBA, and then All NBA works out the contract.
Factors
with
into
players.
contract.
Pablo Torre.
Horrible deal.
Well, look, I would say two things. Number one, the Ja Morant thing. I do think this is Ja Morant's fault. I also think that if you look at this team, Tony, these three teams, this is 3.3% of the league, the best 3.3% of the league. I don't think Ja has an obvious claim over the guys who made it at his position. I do think, to KB's point, that there should at the very least be transparency and accountability when it comes to voting. This is 100 voters. This is a Senate of NBA media members. And by the way, I'm just saying cynically, if you're an NBA player and you're counting on 8-figure swings based on voting, how you deal with the media, spoiler alert, might sway this. And so all of this feels like politics to me. It's fascinating. It just requires sunlight as a disinfectant, as they say sometimes in Washington, D.C.
Wait. You don't think Ja Morant is one of the 6 best guards in the NBA? Or do you think he didn't play enough games? The cap for games, it's floating, right? Luka also missed about a fifth of the season.
And the depth. It's the depth of talent, though. I just don't think it's a slam dunk that he was done an injustice based on
Yates,
performance.
last word to
It's
you.
close, but
I think in 2023, that's the most bizarre thing about it. I don't know who this serves from a fan perspective. If media votes on it, and it seems that you can get through a list of without KD, AD, and Devin Booker, like, what are we actually doing here?
Those guys missed a lot of games, right?
Yeah, well, right. But
third
what
of
I'm
the
saying is
season.
that I don't know what the value is for me for this as a fan. It is a little weird and unseemly that it affects NBA teams, but ultimately, I just don't know when the second team could probably wipe the floor of the first team what you're actually
I've heard
doing
people
overall
say
with
that.
what
Yeah,
all NBA teams are.
I mean, razor thin
Lot of good
margins.
plays.
But LeBron missed quite a few games this year. Ja played more than LeBron, right? Durant missed half the season. That's a tough ask for Durant. For me, it's Jokic. I mean, he could have won MVP, finished second in MVP.
Right.
He's on the precipice, and coming up, we'll talk about it. Getting to and working off of back-to-back offers in the first quarter. Pablo Torre, I see that smile with Harden and Embiid clicking like they are. What do you buy? What do you sell tonight?
can I buy myself? Can I buy the fact that I've had more fun as a priest of the process this postseason than I've ever had before?
Not
Because
about
the pick
you,
and
Pablo.
roll, Tony. A little bit. I'm watching Harden and Embiid and Maxey and B-Ball Paul and PJ Tucker swarm the Celtics, who are not swarming them enough. They can't be stopped in the pick and roll. I'm watching my dreams come true. Honestly, let's be real. This is a championship season we're watching right now.
Victory
It's
for the
incredible.
process is a victory for the Pablo. I get it. From a gameplay situation, how do you see tonight playing out?
I see the Sixers winning. I see Joe Mazzulla calling all of the timeouts he has because he's now very insecure about that.
Kevin Blackstone, how does tonight play out?
Well, I think it plays out just like the last two games have played out. Joel Embiid has nobody who can stop him on the Celtics. They've thrown everybody at him. Robert Williams can't do it. Grant can't do it. Horford tried to do it. He can't do it, and now he's missing three-point shots, which is another problem for the C's. So they need to right the ship very quickly, but I don't think they're going to be able to do it on the road.
For Philly to close out at home tonight. Courtney, let me turn to you from Boston's perspective. Let's throw out Game 5, all right? That was a dud. The first four games, they could have won all four. Two Harden game winners late, or it's a sweep. Go ahead, from Boston's perspective.
Well, they're not losing three straight, and they're not losing on the road. They are one of the best teams in the postseason on the road. Going back to last year when they were 8-4 on the road, they won that Game 7 in Miami in the conference finals to go to the NBA Finals, and then they just did that in Game 6 down in Atlanta to get to this series. So everything changes for them offensively when they are not playing inside TD Garden. I don't know why, but they are
All
number
right, so you
one
think
among
just
all the
getting out of
playoff
the
teams.
pressure cooker that is a home game for them gets them right tonight. Clinton Yates, how about you?
There's two different teams here, one of which has a guy in Tatum who said after a blowout loss at home, it's unfortunate. It happens. Hope it doesn't happen again. And another team that's got a guy, PJ Tucker, who's yelling at guys in their ear to make sure that they've got things going on the court. I'll take the team that's got PJ Tucker in a little bit of fight in this scenario, and they also happen to be at home as well.
And now for the Suns, Chris Paul still out. DeAndre Ayton's questionable with a rib injury. The Kevin Durant super team referendum facing elimination. On the other side, a lot of confidence now for Denver after that Game 5 win. Courtney, what do you buy, what do you sell in this one tonight?
I'm buying we're probably seeing another mortal performance from Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. They went 18-43 in Game 5. You can't expect players to shoot 80% from the floor like we saw Devin Booker do in Game 4. There's just not enough depth here, and they're putting way too much on their stars.
Phoenix at home, Clinton. Can they stave off elimination?
I don't think so. The injury situation is just a little too much between Chris Paul and Ayton, who, whether physical injury is the case or not, just doesn't seem to be in the same headspace that he was when this team made a finals run a couple years ago.
Pablo Torre.
Yeah, Nikola Jokic not being in any foul trouble of any kind. 11 total fouls this series, Tony. He's averaging a triple-double. They have no solutions for him, no strategy. This is a Nuggets win tonight, I think.
You know, you just said that as they go to Phoenix. You can see the fouling turning around just a little bit when you're on the road. Kevin Blackistone, how about you?
Yeah, I hate to get out of the Suns' orbit. I've been there all season, but with the injuries, as Clinton pointed out, and going up against the way the Joker's been playing right now, I don't see them pulling
Not very
this out.
heliocentric, this panel right now. Everybody has got Denver. Woody Page is loving hearing that. One more story here. Buy or sell 3. Oilers 4. Golden Knights 1 last night. The series is even. Look at the final 90 seconds with game in hand. Alex Pietrangelo / Leon Draisaitl. It was called a major and a game misconduct, but there was only a minute and a half left. Connor McDavid wants the league to review it, and he wants a suspension for Pietrangelo because he viewed it as an intent to injure Draisaitl. Reporting today is that there will be a hearing for Pietrangelo tonight with the league. Courtney, how'd you see the hit?
I saw it happen long after Draisaitl released the puck. It was completely unnecessary. Pietrangelo needs to be suspended for Game 5 because we already know how physical and chippy this series has been. 93 combined penalty minutes between the two teams in the third period of Game 4. If you don't make a suspension happen from this incident, you're going to be asking the referees to do way more than they are capable of doing in Game 5.
Yeah, shades of Dale Hunter and Pierre Turgeon back from Caps Islanders back in the day. If you watched that, it was very odd and sort of similar. But I do think that it was a situation where a guy blew his top, did something he wasn't supposed to do. It's not like he injured him viciously. This isn't suspension worthy to me, although you should get a talking to.
Okay, so you're saying because Draisaitl wasn't injured, it's not a suspension. Torrey, you saw the hit, didn't result in an injury, you make a call.
It feels suspendable because the intent is so clear. Draisaitl has been the best player in the postseason, arguably. He wanted to discombobulate him / injure him. But it's funny to do this topic, Tony, after talking about a team that has Marcus Smart on it. I mean, there was no flop at all, and I feel like that might be the one thing that prevents this from being an obvious suspension.
Oh, okay, I see. I follow you now. Draisaitl could have sold it a little bit more. Here it is, Kevin. It's
Correct.
a game misconduct, but there's only 90 seconds left. Should there be a suspension?
I think there should be. It was pointless, it was intentional, and it was extremely dangerous. And I hate to think that the league would make a judgment in this case based on whether or not the player that was hit was injured or not. We know that in the past that has come into consideration. Shouldn't be done here.
Time to say Courtney Cronin, Pablo Torre. Courtney, we're talking about the NFL schedule release. Tonight, beating Cincinnati for the first time ever. He's now beaten all 30 teams. He's the 21st pitcher ever to do that. Clinton, what's the more impressive feat?
It's got to be Kenley Jansen for me. Number one, it's just harder to do statistically. And number two, he started his career as a catcher, and now he's out here breaking records and getting the milestones on the mound. Fantastic career for him.
Kevin Blackistone.
Verlander can be like Aaron Rodgers in every ballpark in America. He can go in and say, "I own you." That's incredible. Who else can do that?
Woody Williams, Vicente Padilla, and 24
Terry
other
Brawl.
guys.
Okay, so a few other
that's the
people can
list.
say
A
it.
lot of great
That's not the
names, and
point.
those guys had some point. Clinton Yates, Showdown 2, NFL schedule drop in T-minus 2 hours. NFL teams' social media accounts. This is their Super Bowl, and right now I'm giving a win to the Bears because they're teasing with Seth freaking Rollins. I love this. But here's some leakage. Season opener Thursday night, September 7th. It's going to be the Lions at Kansas City. The highest profile game on the schedule, the season opener. Detroit and KC. KB, matchup makes sense?
Interesting. Feeding the Lions to the KCs. Okay, I didn't think of that. I guess it makes sense because it really doesn't matter. Everybody's going to watch anyway. You would rather have a rematch from last year or against, a conference foe or something like that. Not going to happen. but you're gonna watch it anyway. It's the NFL.
If everybody's going to watch from last year, then why are we still even in the tradition of putting the Super Bowl winner in the opening game? We need to be moving closer towards more teams like the Lions who people need to discover. I love this. It's a good start. More can be done.
You got to give it to the team that's won the Super Bowl and do the flag and the banner and all that. So you're losing a point for that. 30 seconds of FaceTime. Kevin Blackistone.
Got to congratulate Zach Whitecloud after what he said the other day with John